What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the after credit scene. It is Moon Knight Wednesday, and we are talking about everything episode 4. Let's get right into it, but first, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. We are so close to 100 subscribers, and our next video is going to be our 100th video. So tune back in for our Easter egg video for episode 4 and celebrate with us. So let's get right into it. Just my first impressions of episode 4. Not as good as I thought it could have been. There were a lot of really great things about it. I guess I had my hopes up after we found the location of Amit's tomb at the end of episode 3, that there was going to be something more, and my expectations were really high for it, especially the build up to finding Amit's tomb and some of the tension that was building with the hidden bloody elements that you're finding before they descend into the tomb. I guess I thought there was a lot of things that were gonna happen that just didn't, and I'm not really even sure what it was. Not a bad episode, not anywhere near what I would consider, this is gonna be controversial, but an episode 3 of Loki that you could have just done without, or certain episodes, maybe even WandaVision that were just so out there and off by themselves that you thought, I didn't need that, and that was kind of a missed opportunity. It felt like an extra half of episode 3 that they didn't really know where to stop with, and so they put it in episode 4, and the beginning of what I can only assume is episode 5, and they didn't have enough room in episode 5, so they stuck them both together, so you had kind of a cliffhanger leading into episode 5. The last third of this episode really did redeem it for me, but we'll get to that. Let's start right off at the beginning. Picks up right where episode 3 leaves off, with Khonshu being trapped in that statue form, and you see Horus going and putting the little statue of Khonshu with the rest of the other statues, and I'm sure there's somebody out there that will do an Easter egg. If I can kind of find some of that stuff, I'll include it myself, but of who the other statues are, the other gods, the other people that have been entombed in stone, and why Amit was not entombed where the rest of the gods were entombed that the Ennead had captured. Those are some answers we may not get. Maybe you have to infer them. If you check the after credits, there's a big shot of a lot of different statues. I wonder if those statues match up with the ones we see at the beginning of the episode, because the credits have been changing a little bit. So maybe there's something there. If you're more eagle-eyed than I am and have the time to research it, maybe you can catch it and figure it out and let me know in the comments. So we see that at the beginning. Very ominous that he is doing that he is... that they have all these other guys captured away, but we move straight from that back to the desert with Layla and Steven. Steven has passed out, and some rebels or some of Harrow's people who are chasing down Steven and Layla catch up with them. Layla ends up being able to kind of get out of the way, push Steven's body down a hill, hide behind the car, and kind of get rid of these guys before Steven wakes up. I actually thought that was the spot where maybe they moved to the all-white psychiatric ward thing, that maybe we were going to spend most of the episode inside Steven's head or something. And him waking up was, I guess he's okay. As far as my predictions are concerned, we really did have Steven and Layla going it alone for a while. Obviously, they have to because Khonshu is entombed, but... that tomb reference through the entire episode. Obviously, they're going to a physical tomb. Khonshu is entombed, and then the little bit of a twist at the end there that may or may not be a twist, we'll see in episode 5, is also a tomb of sorts as well. And so as Layla and Steven make their way to the location of Amit's tomb, we find out some answers that I was looking for from episode 3, which was why was Harrow roaming around Egypt when you'd think he would be back at the tomb, helping dig, helping look around, all that kind of stuff. And apparently maybe they'd already done that, or he was waiting for his minions to dig it out, and then he goes back. As they get there, the whole place is deserted. You're not really sure why. And even as they descend into the tomb, jumping ahead a little bit, you're not really sure 100% why. We get a few little shots and some really excellent horror moments, but there's not a huge explanation there other than some things that maybe we can infer. And when we get to that section, that's exactly what we'll do. So there was this really good tension between Marc and Steven as they're driving towards the tomb, and then later on with Layla and Steven, where Steven decides he's going to tell Layla what's going on, and just be honest with her, maybe in a way that Marc wasn't. And I really liked seeing those differences between the two of them, because Steven is coming into his own. I said it a couple episodes ago here, but Steven is, this is a week later, maybe a week and a half from the moment that all this stuff started happening, and Steven has gone from gift shopist, his words, to being on the run from gun-toting terrorists or religious fanatics, whatever you want to call them, somewhere in the Netherlands or the Alps, wherever they are, to back to London and all these other shady places, being arrested, escaping from, getting into a fight with a jackal, and now he's in England, and he is going through a tomb, and he's been inside the Pyramid of Giza in the presence of Egyptian gods, and all these different things that he's been forced to, I don't say grow up, but his personality is changing, and hats off to Oscar Isaac, but the writing and some of the other things were really, really good in that regard, and Steven being able to say, look, I'm not going to be like Marc, I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to keep your secrets, we're different people. And then later on, Marc having to kind of come to terms with that too, and seeing a little bit of a different side of Marc, rather than this brash persona that has been portrayed thus far. And Steven gets this moment where Layla is going to kiss him, and he's honest with her, and they don't, and then he takes his opportunity to go in for the kiss later on. And then I thought it was very funny the way Oscar Isaac played it later as they get into the tomb, and he's trying to be supportive of Layla and letting her know that, your father would be proud of you, that you found this and you've done this. And you almost think they're going to kiss again. It was very, very awkward to watch that version of Steven try to navigate being around a woman and what to do, and him just being smitten with her in a way that was almost off-putting for her, but she was leaning into it because from her perspective, she knows this man, and probably the version of him that she's never seen before, not in a dissociative identity disorder way, but just in a romantic way. It's the side of him that she wished she had seen. And so it's just a very interesting, it was awkward and cute and all that kind of stuff all rolled into one. This is a part where I had a little bit of trouble with the episode. We've been leading up to, we got to find Amit's tomb. We got to find Amit's tomb. The rush, the race to get to Amit's tomb. Last episode was so visually stunning that I really thought there would be more to this episode, and except for the one scene between Layla and Harrow, where they're talking across this chasm, which I thought was a nice visual touch, the tomb did not feel large. Even when they said, "Oh, it's a maze," it felt like a very small set, and it didn't do for me what some of the other scenes in the show have done for me. Everything else just seemed very large in comparison, and so I thought the opportunity to show Steven, this man that lives in a very small flat and works in a gift shop, and his life is very small, to suddenly be in this big place like it was in episode 3 where he's inside the Pyramid of Giza, and kind of smitten. Him being giddy over artifacts and just knowing those things, it didn't pack the same punch for me as it did in the last episodes. I guess maybe it's because they showed them before. Maybe my expectations were higher. Still a decent episode, but not one of my favorites in that regard. And I did think the puzzles were good, but I thought they figured them out a little too soon. Oh, we can go up there. Oh, we can go over there. The horror elements were excellent. When they get into the areas where, there's blood over here. It looks like they've been making sacrifices. And they look on the wall, and Steven is talking about the Heka, the priests that were presumably there to preserve the body. And the tomb started making sense when you find out the little reveal that it's the long-lost tomb of Alexander the Great, which was a nice little touch. It's like, oh, that's something that they didn't have to throw in, but it's a nice little addition. It made some of the other areas make sense, but also that you add in there that, oh, he was an avatar for Amit, kind of throws Marvel history into a unique place, because that would mean that, well, is Alexander the Great's reign and his empire all because of an Egyptian god? And those kind of things. And it just, they took a little bit of history and just kind of flipped it on its head a little bit. And so that was really cool. But one of those priests shows up, and you assume that it is one of those priests that is doing what they're meant to do and just going on autopilot and sacrificing people or protecting people from the tomb or something. It really wasn't clear, other than the fact that they were going and grabbing people and bringing them back and taking out body parts, which was really terrifying and very bloody and made for some really intense moments. But that danger goes away really quick. And so it didn't feel like this, oh, we have to run away from it. You know, the one moment where Layla is traversing across the pit and you see it kind of behind her, that part was really cool. And her getting pulled into the darkness and those kind of things was really good. And then after that, it kind of fizzled. And it's like they gave you a scary moment and then they had to move the plot forward, so they abandoned it. Again, maybe I expected more out of it, but it was there was so much more they could have done with that, and they were trying to move it forward. The conversation there between Harrow and Layla didn't really give you any new information, because you kind of inferred it from everything that they talked about in episode 3. I did like that when Layla finally gets to confront Marc, that he explains it to her a little bit, and you get a little more backstory in that regard. And you're getting that in pieces. Marc knew he was in Egypt. He was with these archaeologists. He knew her father. That's how they met. He hasn't told you yet that he died, just that he got shot, and that's how he became Moon Knight. And so in the comics, all those things are really connected, and maybe we'll get an actual visual flashback of that, but we might just get it in inferences, because there's a lot of story and a lot of things that they have to talk about. While all that's going on, before Layla gets to Stephen, he comes across the tomb, is able to find the statue of Amit. We don't actually know at the end of the episode what happened to the statue. Layla's still hiding, and Harrow busts in. Marc takes over the body because Layla confronts Stephen, and they kind of have it out a little bit, and Stephen Marc, kind of lets on that, yeah, I was there, I knew your dad, my partner betrayed us. I think it would be interesting to find out who his partner was. Maybe that's another setup. Maybe that's somebody else here. Maybe it is Harrow. There's no telling. And so I think that would be a nice twist. Maybe that's something that comes up in episode 5. Oscar Isaac said in an interview that when he was pitched the show, he with Kevin Feige, he was shown the scripts that they had finished, which were the scripts for episode 1 and episode 5. In my mind, that means they knew how they wanted to start it, and they knew where they wanted to go. But they hadn't written out how they wanted to get there or how they wanted to wrap it up. So something big is coming in episode 5, a very, very high expectations for episode 5. And if it continues the way that episode 4 ended, which I thought really redeemed the episode, Marc gets shot, he wakes up, and he is disoriented, and he's in a psych ward, which is far too clean and far too nice to be the real world. For multiple reasons, before you ever get to the weird hippo goddess, or the fact that Marc can see Harrow's actual shoes and pants in the reflection that don't match the psychiatrist version of Harrow that you see in front of you. Before all that, it's just way too clean and way too put together. But I did like the flip there, that all of the people and all of the situations that Marc and Steven have been through thus far. All of those characters got to show up. And props to the actors and actresses that played all those characters, because they get an opportunity, just like Oscar Isaac did, to play a different version of their character. And so someone like Donna, who you see as a manager at the museum, gets to play someone a little unhinged. Layla, same way. May Kalamawi did an excellent job kind of playing a little twisted and a little out of her mind there at the end. And tons and tons of Easter eggs in that particular portion of the episode, right down to the fact that when Marc is sitting in his wheelchair and Layla's in front of him and they show a shot off to the side, behind him you can see what looks like cushions, but ends up looking more like just a pile of eggs. So literal Easter eggs, if you will, just the directors, the artists just kind of saying, hey, there's a lot here to unpack. All the different things that are throwbacks to previous episodes and other things about Marc was really good dialogue and making it feel twisted. I think Marc is probably dead, judging by some of the trailer pieces we've seen that we haven't seen yet. Marc makes reference, or pardon me, Steven makes reference in episode 1 to the field of reeds and your soul being judged in the field of reeds. We've seen a shot of a big boat floating across the desert. I would imagine that this is a way that Steven comes back to life, that they get back, and being dead like this might be a way for them to get back to Khonshu and set him free and then be able to come back to life again. So maybe that's the path back towards episode 6 and the final showdown with Harrow. I have no doubt at this point that I would assume that Harrow or someone gets access to Amit and becomes the Avatar again, and that is the showdown that Moon Knight and Steven and Marc have to have. Another little Easter egg in there as Marc is running away from Harrow and he busts into a room and he opens a sarcophagus and it's Steven. I thought it was really awesome to get the two of them where they can actually see each other and be together in person, hug each other, interact with each other face to face, and work together. They put them in different color outfits and stuff, which I'm sure next episode they're really going to play with. And then they run past a room that has another sarcophagus, which I'm assuming is Jake Lockley. There's that other personality that we haven't seen yet. So episode 5 needs to break out of the psych ward, so to speak, whether it's in Marc's own head or coming to terms with what's going on. Maybe his own brain is doing this. Maybe it's his version of the afterlife. Who knows? Or somebody is playing with Marc and Steven's brain. They have to get to Khonshu. They have to get him back and then awaken Jake's personality as well. And then we got to figure out what that hippo thing is. So a whole lot of things to go over. Like I said, that last third really brought the episode together for me as far as it's required viewing. You can't get from one to the other because you get the tomb, you get the story moving forward with Amit. I told you in some other predictions that Ethan Hawke's character, Ethan Hawke, loves to go for weirdness, and getting to see him in a different role with the little mustache, little creepy outfit, and trying to be that different character was right up his alley. And I think the weirdness with Ethan Hawke and Harrow only ramps up from here on out. So tell us what you guys thought. Like I said, not my favorite episode. The last third of the episode really redeemed it in my eyes as far as being a complete episode and moving it forward. But it really was, an extra portion of episode 3 and an extra portion of episode 5 that they kind of shoved together because they didn't have a good stopping point for either one. You didn't have enough time to go through the whole tomb. You didn't want to lead up to the tomb, and you also didn't want to give the psych ward stuff all in episode 5 because I'm imagining that there's a lot more to go through there, and you want to really be able to take your time with the meat of that metaphor. So again, like and subscribe to our channel. We appreciate you guys watching. Check out some of our other content over here. We got plenty of things to sink your teeth into. And as always, when the next one drops, we'll catch you right back here. Later, guys.